Hello, and welcome to another episode of City Skylines, where today, as mentioned in the last episode, we are going to be focusing on creating a castle on top of this huge mound that we've created for ourselves. We're going to start by putting in the walls, and then we're going to kind of shape the castle and the hill area. I'm going to do some terraforming. We're going to alter that so that it kind of makes sense and we get a really nice aesthetic for our castle that kind of lords over the entire region. I did want, before we start properly, I did want to mention which assets I'm going to be using. So the entryway gate that you have already seen placed, that is the Old Town Bridge Tower Prague that I found on the workshop. It's a really, really nice asset. I had to install building anarchy to allow the road to flow through it, but that wasn't too big a deal. And these walls that I'm currently placing down now, they are network city walls. They were done by Titan. They're really useful. There's a bit of a weird bug with them sometimes though, where when you place them, they seem to flip what direction they are. So on the front facing side, it's all brick, but then on the back facing side, you can see there is like a walkway for archers and other people to walk along. For some reason that keeps flipping depending on the direction you put it in, so it can be a bit fiddly, but I managed to wrangle it into submission eventually. The plan is, as you can see, we're putting the walls in first, and then we're putting in these really cool cobbled streets. They're all one way, but we've put them going all the way around for like a visitors center kind of thing. And you know, back in the olden times, it'd have been where the coach and horses would come in, and then they'd pull up to the castle, and you know, go to the stables and all that stuff. But yeah, this is a castle that I've actually picked. It's called Hartenfels Castle, I want to say. It's a German castle. I found it on the workshop as well. Another really great asset. It does look like a very stereotypical German castle. But it was a really, really nice asset. It was one of the better ones I'd found, and it was kind of the idea of what I had envisioned in my mind, what the castle would look like. I wasn't going to go for a British castle or anything, not this time, because I kind of did that on one of my other series. So this time I wanted to do something a bit more central to Eastern European. But yeah, a really nice asset. I can't fault it in any way. And I wanted to place it right on the edge of the cliff. So I went to Krakow recently in Poland, and I was trying to take some influence off the castle that's there. I had arrived there before the people I was going to Krakow with, so I was sat on this bench below the castle, and there's kind of this big cliff that goes up, and then the castle's sat on top of it, and it was really striking. It's a really lovely view. So that's the kind of feel I wanted to recreate with this castle. So that's why I plonked it down, and then I moved the cliff face in a bit, so that if you imagine when I eventually pop houses down on the other side, you know, they'll be living in the shadow of this huge, great building that's gonna look fantastic, hopefully. I also found this asset. This is Arjan's medieval keep asset. I think it's actually classed as a university building on the store, but I wanted to give my castle just a little bit extra. I kind of had this idea that the castle that's being used is the new castle, and that there was at some point an older one. So that's why I wanted to put this in, because it kind of looked and it felt a bit older than the one that we're actually using. So I thought this could be the remnants of the previous castle that existed. So that's why I plonked it right next to our new one. And I thought it fit in quite well, to be honest. I did some detailing with some rocks and trees around it just to blur the lines and get some of that greenery out, because when it's all just flat and green it doesn't look quite as nice. But I was careful to get rid of all trees on the outside, because obviously if there is a tree on the outside then people are just going to climb up the tree and jump over the walls, which we didn't want. So yeah, where this old castle would have been, I decided to put a little park outside with just a very simple one, with just a pavilion, and that's all. And then on the other side, I thought the other side would be a really great spot to put like a floral garden, which I'll get to detailing in a little bit. But you know, this being more of a modern castle, I decided it needed a bit of a tourist presence. So I think this might just be a base asset actually, the rider and the cannons. I thought that'd be a nice little monument, and then a monument to the history of the castle and its owners. And then I put in some tourist car parks. And I also found this little kids play park that was in the design of a castle, and I thought that'd be a really great feature to have from a tourist perspective. Would be a play park for the kids while the adults roam around the castle. They can kind of do their own thing in their own little themed area, which I thought was really, really cute. So yeah, now I'm doing the detailing for the Floral Garden, and I put in some old damaged castle walls in here, which came from a different asset. And again, this is kind of feeding into me having the idea of this isn't the first castle that was built here. This is maybe the second that has been built on the ground of a previous one. So I just put hints of that around, rather than making it too blatantly obvious. You can imagine you'd walk around and there'd be a plaque on there telling you the history of the old castles and all the old rulers and all of that stuff. So yeah, I did manage to find some really great assets on the store for all this stuff. It's come on a long way. The last time I tried to make a castle video, there weren't the assets on the store were extremely limited, but there's a lot more really good stuff now. I'll put the assets that I mentioned in the description in case you want to have a look at them yourselves, but I would definitely recommend them. They're all really stunning visually. So yeah, so that's basically I was kind of happy with the castle as a whole at this point. I thought we'd got some good detailing, and now I wanted to create an old town kind of coming out of it. I mentioned this briefly in my last video. I had this idea of, on this side of the river with the castle was the original city, and still, the main part of the city, but that had slowly expanded over the river over time, and that had been developed in a more modern way. So it kind of so they are the same city, but there's a very clear divide between new and old. And in keeping with that, I wanted to implement a railway. So I think this is Flounder's railway asset. It's a really fantastic looking station, that fits with like an old town aesthetic. So I thought that would go in at the bottom of the hill, and that's where all the tourists would come in, and residents and people like that. But I actually wanted the railway to come through the new city, with the idea that the railway would have been built before the city really managed to expand over the river. So it would kind of be cutting through it a little bit. And what you can see now is just me doing some traffic management of, a one-way drop-off system that brings you off the main road, and then you just drop off whoever you're dropping off, or pick up someone, and then you get back onto the main road. So I just thought a nice little bridge over the railway tracks. I like doing my road bridges kind of with natural ramps as terraformed, as opposed to just having them as obviously man-made ramps. I think it's a bit of a smoother transition, and it tends to look a bit nicer. Yeah, and I was also thinking, because I want this hill to be all on an old town, or kind of an old town aesthetic, I thought a tram would be a good use of public transport, or the most I'm trying to think of the correct word, probably the most apt form of transport that would have been used. So I had this idea that there'd be a tram line going all the way up the hill to the castle, and then it would kind of come down back down the hill, and it would just be one circle loop. I don't want to build up the area around the castle too much, because it would have been Old Town, so all this, if you've ever been to a European Old Town, all the streets are really close together, all the buildings are close together, there's not much room to maneuver really at all. So I was kind of thinking of like an Amsterdam vibe, where there's trams going around all over the place. So yeah, and then as you can see, this is me putting the railway through our pre-existing modern part of the city. So all the international rail transports would come through, and they'd actually come through, look, and be able to see the new city, but they would actually being transported to the old. And I thought that'd be a really cool way to actually arrive into the city. Would be you're actually passing through all these skyscrapers and stuff, and then you cross the river, and then you're into the old town, which kind of has a castle looking down at you, and you can hop on a tram that takes you up there. And I thought that'd be a really cool way to arrive. I was actually thinking, there's a Edinburgh Castle. If you get on the train to Edinburgh Castle in Scotland, there's a certain way that you can come where the castle is looming over you, and then you go into a tunnel, and that always sticks with me as being a really cool way of getting into the city. So this isn't quite like that. I'm kind of doing the opposite here, where you're going through the modern areas, and then you see the old, and you get to see the castle looming over you. But yeah, I thought it'd be a nice little way of doing things. So we're gonna stop the video soon, and because I'm gonna populate all the areas as similar to I did last episode, and I'm just gonna make an old town aesthetic and let the sim run for a bit, so that we can get some residents in. And I'll put a bit of commercial in, but I'm not going to put too much, because I don't want traffic to be insane around here. I want to keep all the roads fairly smooth. I don't want to create too many. I'll probably use the same cobble street asset as I did with the actual loop around the castle. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah, I'll be back in a minute to show you where I got to. Hello and welcome back. So here we are. I've let the sim run, populated a bit of an old town. I got these assets off the store again. There was like a Eastern European theme that I've gone for, and I've used the district themes mod so that I can specify that this area should all be that one district style. I did have a bit of an issue in that the style didn't seem to come with any commercial assets, so I've had to make this, like if I go to my district view, I've kind of had to make a strip that is just European, the vanilla European, to actually get any commercial to spawn, which was a bit naff. Like I keep getting buildings like this, but I'm just deleting those and then letting them rebuild, and hopefully they come back with a better aesthetic. But yeah, now we're running the video at normal speed. You can kind of see my castle in all its glory. Like the Simra. Yeah, I'm really pleased with it. Here's a little play park I was talking about. You can see it is very castle themed. So yeah, I really like that asset. It's one of my favorite parts. We have the Botanical Gardens with the old wall from the old castle. Yeah, here you can see the castle wall asset that I've got kind of has this walkway that runs along, where all the archers and stuff would go, and then there are certain assets that are like steps up to it, so that's really cool. You can see all the tourists coming in from down here, which is my tram stop. My trams are doing really well. They just do a simple one-way loop, so once they've picked the tourists up from the castle, they kind of go all the way down this hill, with lovely views over the entire city going down, go all the way down there, come back around, and then this is one of the main stops for people to flow over to our train station, which looks really good in the daylight. Yeah, another really great asset. I added in some car parks over here for the long stay people, or the park and ride people who will be jumping on the trains to commute. And I've added in a small underground line that just goes to our industry area. You can see it coming through now. It's all tunneled, so that comes through there. Yeah, I'm really pleased with it. The loading on this style is a bit intense. Like, there's really low level of detail there, but once you zoom in, it's actually a really nice aesthetic. And it's kind of exactly what I was going for. This is just a huge one-way system. So this street is one way all the way down. It just snakes down all the way here, which I quite liked. It kind of reminded me of that hill in San Francisco that just snakes down. Yeah, I quite like that. As you can see, the traffic's not bad actually. There's a lot of parked cars on this main street. This is actually the only street that you can go up on. This is a one-way street all the way to the top, and just to ease the traffic a little on the commercial, I've added a kind of like a back alley street that comes all the way back down to the main road, down here. But yeah, the main way to get up is through here, and that is the main route that the majority of the traffic takes. So yeah, really happy with how this episode's turned out. So what I'm actually planning for next episode is I'm going to do a cathedrals area, and it's going to be on this side of the river again. But I kind of have a cool idea of like the cathedral will be on like an opposing hill. I'm not sure where I'm going to put it yet. Maybe over here or over here, and then flatten some of this out. And then we have the idea that it's like, because religion and monarchies are often intertwined, so I thought that would like feed into the story of the city a bit, and it would kind of go well with what in cities you have to do a lot of environmental storytelling to fill in the gaps of the history of your city. So that is what I'm going to be planning on doing the next episode. And yeah, I'm going to fill out some more of the residential area, because it still looks a bit barren around these areas. Need to fill those in, maybe with some detailing and whatnot. So yeah, that's it for this episode. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, like the video, leave any feedback, all that stuff, and thanks again. See you next time.